never be lazy, but work hard and serve the Lord enthusiastically. Last week we talked about rest, and we said that rest is a necessary thing, if you guys haven't figured that out already. Rest is super important, but God's version of rest, it's resting and sleeping, but there's more to it there. Godly rest looks like pausing and letting Jesus fill us up with energy in his presence, and going back out and doing good works, and doing work for him. However, some of us are stressed out only doing a little bit of those good works. Some of us just get super stressed out when God says, hey, I want you to go talk to that person. Oh, I can't do that. I'm not good at speaking. I can't do that. Where do you find yourself in this? Do you find yourself getting stressed when you guys are have to do something? Like say I have to do some homework, or I have to, I feel like I should be reading the Bible. Do you guys get stressed over that kind of thing? But sometimes it's good to ask ourselves, how you doing? How's your faith life going? How am I doing in this area? Or what situations am I putting myself that may be too much for me, or maybe I'm not doing enough in this area? So it's good to check ourselves out. And although I don't think many of you as the youth are serving literally every week in ministry like we do, which doesn't make us any better than you, by the way, but it is definitely a big responsibility. You all have responsibilities yourselves, right? You have a responsibility to do your homework. You have your responsibility to your school to listen, because you actually have to listen. You have your responsibilities to your family, your different chores, and you have responsibilities to your friends too, to be there for them and to, be a good friend for them. So no matter what age you are, you got responsibilities. And sometimes those responsibilities can really stress us out, right? Some things are just really overbearing. Some things are just naturally hard to do, like loving someone when they're being Austin's not here. So let's answer some questions today. Rollin, if you want to put up the first slide. What are some signs that I might be experiencing burnout? So the title of my message, I probably should have said this already, is On Fire or Burnt Out. Those are two very different things. So what are some signs that I might be experiencing burnout, like that little video that I put? So here's an example that I kind of wrote down to help illustrate what I think burnout might be in your life. So burnout commonly happens in a teen's life after long hours of input, like studying, helping friends, or going through family stuff during hard times. And it can result in discouragement, it can result in stress, worry, and loss of your fire. It looks practically like struggling to keep your tired emotions under control, not wanting to get involved or invested any more than you are right now, dreading going to work, lack of passion and love, falling into temptations over and over again, even though you don't want to. And it looks like the feeling of running on coffee fumes all the time. So let me ask you this. Where do you find yourself? Are you burnt out? Just think about that. You don't have to raise your hand. You don't have to tell me. This is personal, y'all. Why is continuing to live in burnout mode a threat to our fire? Because we're all supposed to be on fire. We're supposed to be passionate about the Lord. But sometimes it's hard to really feel that. So why is burnout the enemy of our fire? So let's turn to Luke 21 in our Bibles, verses 34 through 36. And I'll read that for you. So it says, watch out. Don't let your hearts be dulled by carousing and drunkenness and by the worries of this life. Don't let that day catch you unaware. When it says the day, what do you guys think they're talking about there? There's actually some evidence in the text as well underneath it, so you can look at that. What do you think they're talking about? Don't let that day catch you unaware. What day are they talking about here? Monday? I know, it feels like that, right? Anybody else got any suggestions? I know Rollin knows because he heard this message already. The day of the Lord, the day that Jesus comes back. It's saying, don't let that day catch you off guard. Don't let that day catch you unaware. Like a trap, it says. Even though that day's not supposed to be a trap, right? It's supposed to be the most glorious day ever. Jesus is coming back. But it says, don't get caught up in carousing around, perusing around, looking for the right guy or the right girl, or don't be doing this and that. It says, be ready, because when he comes back, you don't want to be doing that stuff, right? So it says, like a trap, for that day will come upon everyone living on the earth. Keep alert at all times and pray that you might be strong enough to escape these coming horrors. That's how we know it's the day, because we hear of all the horrors in Revelation for those who don't believe. And stand before the Son of Man, Jesus. So the first thing it says, what? Watch out. Look out, y'all. And also, be watching, because Jesus is coming back, right? So be watching out for that sort of thing. So there's actually some proof in this text of why burnout is so bad and why it is a threat to our fire. And the first one that I see is dullness. So if you look at the first verse, don't let your hearts be dulled, right? That's right there in the text. So it says, don't let your hearts be dulled. So burnout brings dullness. Dullness is like a weak witness, being dulled, not very effective, no strengthening from Christian peers. That means like, have you guys heard the term iron sharpens iron? It means like when two believers get together, they like bring out the best in one another, that they refine each other. They go through the scriptures together and they're there for each other. That's what that means. But if you're dull, then and there's none of that in your life, then you're not very effective in that mode. Another one that I found in here is loss of direction or purpose for living. How many people who you know are in a rut or who are in burnout mode that just don't really have a reason to do anything anymore? Like, I don't feel like I really want to go to work. I don't really want to go to school. I don't want to even live right now. There's so many young people right now who are living in that kind of mode in their life. Fire's all gone. And it's just like, I don't even have a purpose for living. They forgot even the direction that they're going in and why they're doing what they're doing. And remember that text that we read earlier? Serve the Lord enthusiastically. That's kind of the goal with our life. But living in burnout brings us loss of direction. No use in serving, and don't remember why is what I wrote in my text. There's no use for even getting involved in church, getting involved in ministry. And if you are, I don't even remember why I'm doing this. What's the point? The other one is distractions. I wrote down entitled days of rest and me time. We all want those kind of days, right? Where it's like, I'm peopled out, I want to just have my me time. But that's a sign of burnout. Distractions happen all the time, but in somebody's life where they're burned out, distractions, they're really kind of unavoidable. It's just like you kind of just give yourself away to them. You binge on Netflix, you do this, you do that, and it's like you don't even have any power against it. The last one that I have here is, well, it's kind of a funny word, but slumbering. What do you guys think that means? Sleep, exactly. So that means like we're living like spiritual zombies walking around like Eeyore, oh, you gotta get saved. Jesus rocks, man. Like all just bored, like uninterested, just sleeping. When we should be being productive in our faith, right, y'all? We should be active and productive in our faith. So I believe, and this is just my opinion, but I see it in you. So I believe that God has put desires of change within each of you. I know you guys don't want to stay in this position if you're there. I know you guys also want to see change happen in your church, in your community, at your school. God's put that desire of change within all of you. It just looks different for each of you. You're seeing the hypocrisy of many of the people that are older than you. You say, I never want to grow up and do what they do. And you see what they do, and you're like, I don't want any part of that. You want to do better. We all want to do better than those who have gone before us and those who are living right now that are just making a total waste of their life. We want to do better. If God has put this desire within you, like to want to see change happen, then what are you going to do about this? If you're in burnout mode, you're never going to be able to see that change happen within your own life. You're just going to stay in that rut. It's like you guys have dug a hole for yourself. And maybe not just you, but there's a lot of people out there that just dig these holes of regret and these holes of bitterness and distraction and anxiety, and you're in this hole, and you want to be out of it. You want to climb out of it, but that takes effort, right? Climbing out of a rut in a hole takes a lot of darn effort, right? So then what do? We just, we put up little posters, and we put everything up on the walls, and we just say, hey, it's not so bad anymore. It's kind of comfortable in here. I want to stay in this place, right? We cannot do that. If we continue to live in burnout like that, we're going to be ineffective. We're going to be weak. We're going to be distracted, and we're never going to have that fire. So I just want to talk against that today and say, when you're in a hole, don't just spruce it up and say, I think it's fine here. No, it's good to have kind of a godly discontentment of like, I really don't want to be here. That's a good place to be in. If you don't want to be where you're at right now, that's a good sign. Burnout is the opposite of revival. We hear that word a lot lately, right? Revival. We want to see revival happen in the church. We want to see revival happen in our own life. But burnout is the exact opposite of that. Because it's saying, I'm going to live this way. I'm going to stay in this hole. But revival is letting the Spirit of God renew you and being excited about your faith. So we're going to be reading in Matthew now, Matthew 5, verses 3 through 12. I'm just going to read through that. There's a lot of good stuff here. So it starts with this. God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice or righteousness, for they will be satisfied. God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. God blesses those whose heart are pure, for they will see God. God blesses those who work for peace. Work for peace. Peace has to be worked for, y'all. For they will be called the children of God. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses you when people mock you and persecute you and lie about you. I don't feel too blessed when I'm in that point. When people are persecuting me, when people are lying about me, gossiping about me behind my back, I don't feel too good in that place. But Jesus says, blessed are you. I wonder why. It literally says, be happy about it. Be very glad. Jesus, this is a hard scripture text to swallow. But this is why. It says, for a great reward awaits you in heaven. And remember, the ancient prophets were persecuted in the same way. So Jesus is shedding light on some stuff. There's some really different stuff in here, y'all. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are those who are, grieving and sad. I don't feel very blessed. And people who are in that state, it doesn't seem like Jesus is, blessing their life. But literally, Jesus challenges us to look different. So Jesus is shedding light on how things really are in God's kingdom. This message is something that anyone could understand, and regular people like you and me can relate to. It's blessed are those who have to work for peace. Blessed are those who are poor. So we can kind of relate to this. But in this text, God is actually addressing two types of people. And the first one is the burnt out religious priest or the Pharisees. And I'm not gonna go through all these examples. I just kind of give you kind of what they're going through, what Jesus calls them out for. These are the guys who get lost in ceremonies, who get lost in doing all the work, doing all the right things. Jesus says that they are not blessed for their superiority, looking down the nose at other people and saying, I'm so much better than you because I obey God and I know the scriptures inside and out. You're not blessed for that. You're not blessed by superiority. But those who are humble, it says, are. So he flips that upside down, makes them really angry. Those who are servants are blessed. Common, normal people, just like you and me, could get behind what Jesus was saying, like I said. And he called those who mourn and weep and hungered and are poor blessed. I love that. Thank you, Jesus. People who live lives where nothing ever goes wrong, that does not mean that God is pleased with them. It says in, I believe it's Proverbs, it says, Look at what all the wicked people are doing out there. It seems like they're prospering out there. And here I'm a Christian, I'm following God, and I'm going through all this crap right now. Right? But Jesus is saying that just because you don't have anything going wrong in your life, for those religious people, does not mean that everything is good on his terms. In fact, they weren't following Jesus at all. They weren't even following God at that point, because Jesus was God and they didn't even know who the heck he was. And he was literally giving them the words from God. Man, I just pray and hope that I would not be that kind of guy. Like a Pharisee, like somebody who is superior over everyone, who practices false humility, 24/7 in ministry, just serving, but forgets why. Losing sight of the truth, unkind, just religious, and has no relationship with Jesus. God forbid that would be me. You are not more blessed because you say all the right things or have an obligation to serve your church. You are blessed when you obey Jesus and serve because he first served you. And that's the straight up truth, y'all. And the second group of people is the lazy, tired people with all the excuses why they can't be active and why they can't obey God. And there's some more instances for you. God's terms of blessing include not giving up and making excuses. And even when we do give up, God turns that around for good. It says he never gives up on us, right? He's never going to walk out on you. It mentions things like those who give mercy are blessed. So giving is what? If you give something, it's an action. It says those who work to make peace. Work is an action. Let me tell you, it is a sweaty action. Jesus calls us all to be active, to be the change that we want to see. To be the change that you want to see in this church, right? And Jesus pretty much calls it salt and light. That's the concept. And that's going to be what we're going to read next in Matthew 5, 13 through 16. You are the salt of the earth. But what good is salt if it has lost its flavor? Can you make it salty again? It will be thrown out and trampled underfoot as worthless. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand, like the stool here, where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. Or in other words, let your light so shine. So what does salt and light look like? What does salt and light actually look like? Being the salt and light looks weird. It looks exciting, though. It looks passionate. It even looks sweaty. And messy, and maybe even foolish to many people. If we actually live like this, though, we would start to see real change. We would get our fire back, and we would see revival breaking out of our lives. There's no magic formula here. It's not like, oh, you do this and then revival breaks out. This is a constant battle that we face every day. We got to live and be salt and light every day. But this is kind of what it looks like. It looks like passion. It looks like being a little bit weird. It's living life loving because Jesus first loved us. I'll say that again. It's living your life loving others because Jesus loved you first. What if you lived like that? Do you live like that right now? If not, why not? What would happen if you started to live like that? Would you see change? Would you see your fire coming back? Would you see things that you see wrong in the world? Would you start to see them start to change or start to get a purpose and see what you can do about it? I think it would. So I kind of got some kind of prerequisites here. What does salt and light look like? Okay, if I was salt, I would have a distinct taste. Now, don't think weird things here. We're not actually talking about like a special taste that your skin has when you become a Christian. That's so stupid. No, what it means is, do you stand out? Is your message clear when you tell people about Jesus? Does your life look a little bit weird? It should. If I was salt, I would preserve life. You tell people about hell and how Jesus brings life. You would stand up for the unborn. You would see people at church not as just people who I just talk to or people who I should just ignore because they're creepy and weird, but you see them as blood-bought daughters and sons of God. That's what it would look like. I would not lose my taste. Remember in the text it says, like, if salt loses its saltiness, loses its flavor, can you make it salty again?
Jesus says, but what good is salt if it has lost its flavor? Can you make it salty again? You can't make yourself spiritually salty again, but Jesus can. We can't do that, but he can. He can give us that ability to be a preservative, because that's what salt was in the day. You know, it would preserve against rot. They'd use it with meat. They'd use it with vegetables and stuff like that. And Jesus wants you to be that in society. I mean, our society is rotting right now from the inside out because they've all walked away from God. But you can be part of that movement to turn back the tide, and it starts with you.
Absolutely. I would expose darkness. I would not hide, but oppose the darkness. I would provide vision and clarity for others, and I would be positive and brighten others' days. So, being salt and light, what Jesus says salt and light looks like, all these examples, is your fire. That's what being on fire looks like. It's living like salt and light. So my challenge for y'all is go and live like salt and light. Live like this. Look a little bit different. Be passionate. Let God as Rollins said, re-salt you. Let him work on you. And one last thing I want to put and say. Serving always brings your faith in the high def, as my one friend Anthony says. So we're going to have some opportunities to serve in November, and I'll tell you about those in the coming weeks. We got Operation Christmas Child, and I got some really unique opportunities that we're going to come together, and we're going to serve the community, the church, and each other. So I'm so excited for that. Jesus, thank you for this message. God, just work through it and bring peace. Lord, let somebody walk away with something and just work in our lives, Jesus. We love you and thank you. It's in your name. Amen.